Welcome to the Taiwan Language Episode, a podcast for learning and insights in Mandarin and Taiwanese. I'm your host, Yasmin. Welcome to today's episode. Have you ever liked someone but because of the situation or timing, you could not tell them how you felt or be with them? The pure love stays etched in your heart, becoming a profound memory. You often think about the person who made your heart flutter back then. In your life, you might find yourself unconsciously projecting this love onto someone else. You might not be sure if you really like this new person, but you know they have become your emotional support, making you cry and laugh. But if one day you find out they don't actually like you, the pain will be just like the heartache you felt when you could not be with that first person you loved. Today I want to share with you a story of love transformation. A Sea of Blood-red Azaleas. This story is told by a young college graduate, speaking from his own perspective. He told about his uncle's house in Taipei, which had a large and beautiful garden. After his uncle passed away, he left behind his wife and their only daughter, Little Beauty. The aunt had always doted on Little Beauty, making her a pure and innocent girl, though a bit spoiled. In the household, there was also a 40-year-old male servant, Wang Xiong. The aunt saw Wang Xiong's protective nature and companionship towards Little Beauty as a sign that they were destined for each other. Wang Xiong once told the narrator that before coming to Taiwan, he had been engaged to a chubby little girl in his hometown. Wang Xiong acted like a guardian for Little Beauty, often taking her to school on the tricycle and playing with her in the garden. The maid, happy with her flirtatious and voluptuous figure, frequently entered the garden, posing a threat to Wang Xiong's ideal world. Thus, Wang Xiong and Happy became arch-enemies. As time passed, Little Beauty grew up and, after entering adolescence, began to distance herself from Wang Xiong. One day, Wang Xiong and Happy had a conflict. Wang Xiong violently attacked Happy, nearly strangling her. After this incident, Wang Xiong disappeared. Eventually, his body was found on a desolate beach. After a year later, the narrator visited the aunt's house again and noticed that the azaleas in the garden were blooming exceptionally well. So from the story, I feel that Wang Xiong had special feelings for Little Beauty. He overlapped her image with that of the chubby little girl he had been engaged to in his hometown, which led to a similar emotional attachment to Little Beauty. One time, when Little Beauty wore her high school uniform, Wang Xiong was stunned. It wasn't just about a little girl growing up, but the realization that Little Beauty was no longer the child he remembered. From that moment, Wang Xiong became increasingly reclusive. Especially after Little Beauty began to distance herself from him, he became completely disheartened. The story's narrator once said, "When I was in Jingmen, there were a number of old soldiers in our battalion. They must have been in the army for almost 20 years. but it seemed to me they had still kept a childlike innocence. Their joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness were just like the burning sun and sea storms of Jinmen. Primitive and direct. Sometimes I'd see a whole lot of them naked in the ocean having a water fight. From time to time, one or another of their wrinkled faces would suddenly break into a child's smile, the kind of smile you never see on grown-ups' faces. Wang Xiong was around 18 when he originally left his village with 2 loads of rice to sell, only to be forcibly conscripted into the army as soon as he left. When Wang Xiong was abandoned by a little beauty, it felt as if he was reliving the experience of being forsaken and exiled to Taiwan. Yet, he still refused to accept the reality, hoping one day to return to his hometown. The author doesn't clarify how Wang Xiong's body ended up stranded on the beach. However, it might imply that Wang Xiong's soul was trapped, unable to move on, and thus stranded, returning every night to watch over the azaleas that symbolize purity. But that's the end of my reflection. Now let's learn a few sentences of Taiwanese. The first one, 這件代誌唔對的人是你。這件代誌唔對的人是你。It's your fault in this manner. This sentence suggests that the speaker is blaming the listener for a particular situation or incident. 這件代誌唔對的人是你。The second one, 這件代誌我甲伊毀掉啊。這件代誌我甲伊毀掉啊。I have already declined this offer regarding this matter. The sentence indicates that the speaker has rejected or returned down a proposal or a request made by someone else in relation to the matter being discussed. 這件代誌我甲伊毀掉啊。這件代誌我甲伊毀掉啊。And the third one, 你真是娶到一個好某。你真是娶到一個好某。You really married a good wife. This is a compliment sentence, suggesting that the listener's spouse is an excellent partner. The last one, 伊考勸大家愛關心社會。伊考勸大家愛關心社會。He advised everyone to care about society. This sentence implies that someone encouraged or urged people to be concerned about societal issues or the well-being of the community. 伊考勸大家愛關心社會。伊考勸大家愛關心社會。Alright, now let's review those 4 sentences. The first one, 這件代誌唔對的人是你。這件代誌唔對的人是你。The second one, 這件代誌我甲伊毀掉啊。這件代誌我甲伊毀掉啊。The third one, 你真是娶到一個好某。你真是娶到一個好某。Last one, 伊考勸大家愛關心社會。伊考勸大家愛關心社會。So that wraps up what I had to share today. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review on your listening platform. Feel free to share this podcast with your friends to help more people discover this podcast. You can also support my work by buying me a cup of coffee, which helps this podcast continue providing learning resources. To enrich your learning experience, I create a study guide in Chinese with opinion versions. There are still more information for you to explore. Make sure to check our show notes for more information. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you join us again on Taiwan language episode. I will see you next week. Bye bye.